The Galactic Council had sent their best xenobiologist to observe the impossible. Dr. Zareth's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession as he watched the human female, Dr. Sarah Chen, according to her file, crouch before the Velcran death cub with nothing but a smile on her face. The creature, no larger than a human child but already possessing retractable claws that could slice through reinforced steel, hissed and lunged at her outstretched hand. "Stop," Zareth's translator chirped urgently. "That creature killed 3 of my assistants last cycle." Sarah didn't flinch. The cub's needle-sharp teeth closed around her thumb, applying what should have been bone-crushing pressure. Instead of screaming or pulling away, she laughed, a sound that seemed to confuse the predator more than any weapon could have. "Oh, you're a feisty one, aren't you?" she cooed, her voice carrying that peculiar tonal quality humans used with their young. The cub released its grip, tilted its triangular head, and made a sound Zareth had never heard from a Velcron in 30 years of studying them. It was uncertain, curious. Sarah's other hand came up slowly, fingers scratching behind the ridge where the cub's auditory sensors lay hidden beneath armored plates. The creature's 6 legs began to tremble. Its tail, which had been whipping dangerously moments before, started a rhythmic swaying pattern. Then, to Zareth's absolute horror and fascination, the death cub, apex predator of Velcros Prime, scourge of the Andromeda Belt, rolled onto its back and exposed its vulnerable underbelly. A deep, rumbling vibration emanated from its chest cavity. "Impossible," Zareth whispered. "That's a submission display. Velcrons don't submit. They don't even submit to their own pack leaders until after bloody dominance trials." Sarah glanced up at him, her hand now gently rubbing the cub's stomach plates. "Really seems pretty chill to me." "Chill?" Zareth's translator struggled with the colloquialism. That creature was designated for termination after it killed researcher Volthanus. It showed no signs of domestication potential. You were going to kill a baby because it acted like a baby?" Sarah's expression hardened, though her hands remained gentle on the now purring cub. "That's your problem right there. You treat them like biological weapons instead of living beings." Zareth's chitinous plates clicked in agitation. "They are biological weapons. The Velcran species nearly wiped out the Centauri colonies before we contained them on their homeworld. This isn't some harmless creature. In 2 solar cycles, that baby will be large enough to bite a hover transport in half." "Maybe," Sarah acknowledged, standing slowly while the cub rolled to its feet and pressed against her legs, that strange purring intensifying. "But every species has the capacity for bonding. You just have to speak their language." Over the following weeks, Zareth documented what he could only describe as a systematic dismantling of everything xenobiology thought. It knew about predator species. Sarah worked with 17 Velcran cubs that had been slated for behavioral correction, a euphemism for termination. She approached each one without weapons, without protective gear, with nothing but patience and what she called reading their body language. When a cub showed aggression, she didn't punish it. She redirected it. When it bit, she didn't recoil. She showed it gentler ways to interact. When it growled, she growled back, a playful, rumbling sound from her throat that seemed to trigger something primal in the cub's neural patterns. "Humans are prey species," Zareth protested during one observation session. Watching Sarah wrestle with 3 adolescent Velcrans at once, they could have torn her apart. Instead, they were play fighting, pulling their strikes, their massive jaws closing around her arms with carefully controlled pressure. "Your evolutionary biology is built on running away from predators, not befriending them." Sarah paused, a cub draped across her shoulders like some bizarre scarf, its tail wrapped contentedly around her waist. "That's where you're wrong. We're not prey. We're survivors, and survivors learn to adapt." She scratched the cub's chin, eliciting another of those impossible purrs. "Our ancestors lived alongside wolves, pack hunters that could have eaten us. Instead, we found common ground. We hunted together, protected each other, loved each other. Now we call them dogs, and they're humanity's best friends." "You domesticated apex predators," Zareth said slowly, the implications crystallizing in his mind. "We partnered with them," Sarah corrected. "There's a difference. We didn't break them or change what they fundamentally were. We just connected." By the 3rd month, the council facility had transformed. Cubs that had been kept in isolation cells were now living in communal spaces. Aggressive behaviors had decreased by 93%. Most remarkably, the cubs had begun to show signs of emotional attachment, not just to Sarah, but to other staff members who adopted her methods. The data was undeniable. Zareth watched through observation glass as Sarah entered the habitat of Velcro 7, the largest and most aggressive cub in the facility. It had scarred 4 handlers and was considered beyond rehabilitation. The massive creature charged at her, all claws and fury. Sarah stood her ground, then did something that made Zareth's respiratory system seize. She opened her arms wide. Velcro 7 crashed into her, bowling her over. For a moment, Zareth thought he was about to witness a tragedy. Then he saw it. The cub's claws were retracted. Its jaws closed around Sarah's shoulder gently, almost tenderly. Its entire massive body vibrated with that purring sound. Sarah wrapped her arms around the creature's neck, buried her face in its armored hide, and whispered something Zareth's instruments couldn't pick up. The apex predator of Velcros, Prime, melted into her embrace like an oversized house cat. When the council representatives arrived for the final evaluation, they found Sarah in the main habitat, surrounded by all 17 cubs. Some were sleeping in piles, others were playing, a few were simply sitting close to her, their massive heads resting in her lap. Recommendation? The council chair being asked Zareth. The xenobiologist looked at his data, then at the scene before him. 3 months ago, these creatures had been sentenced to death. Now they were family. I recommend, Zareth said carefully, that we hire more humans. The chair being's sensory stalks twisted in confusion. Explain. Humans possess something we don't, Zareth replied, watching as Sarah laughed while a cub tried to steal her data pad, its tail wagging in what was unmistakably joy. They have an evolved capacity for empathy that transcends species barriers. Where we see biological threats, they see potential companions. Where we see monsters, they see friends waiting to be made. He turned to face the council. If we're ever going to build a true galactic community, one that includes all species, not just the convenient ones, we need to learn from them. Sarah glanced up and waved at the observation window. A Velcran death cub's head cradled in her arms, purring contentedly against her palm. The council representative stared in silence. Finally, the chair being spoke. These humans are terrifying. Yes, Zareth agreed, watching as another cub rolled onto its back for belly rubs. But perhaps that's exactly what the galaxy needs.